The U.S. has called for Iraq to adopt a more inclusive government, although the future may be better suited, a lot of experts think, for a permanent division of Iraq. Brian Todd is here. He's here in Washington. Brian, we heard a lot about what they're calling a three-state solution back in 2003 after coalition forces went into Iraq, toppled Saddam Hussein. So is that back in discussion right now?
It's being discussed, Wolf, for the first time in almost a decade. You know, the reality on the ground now in Iraq, as we all know now, is as bad as it's ever been. ISIS militants are advancing. The Iraqi military in many areas up here in the north has collapsed and retreated. You've got a sectarian war brewing. Now, with all of this, some media reports reviving that idea put out there almost a decade ago of dividing Iraq into three regions. It would be the Shia region here in the southeast, probably divided somewhere in here where the mixed Sunni Shia region is in the southeast. You've got the Sunni region here in the west and the Kurdish region here in the north. Now, that's kind of close to how the country is divided right now. The most popular idea would be to make each region semi-autonomous. That means they'd each be responsible for their own internal laws, their internal security, but a central Iraqi government in Baghdad would control the borders, would control foreign policy, would divide oil revenues between each of the three regions. That idea was proposed back in 2006 at the height of the insurgency when so many U.S. troops were dying trying to keep the sectarian tensions down. The main proponents of the idea, then Senator Joe Biden, who was preparing a run for president, along with former U.S. Ambassador Peter Galbraith, who's now an advisor to the Kurds. We have called the vice president's office today to see if he'd comment on this idea as it stands now. We've not heard back from the vice president's office. We assume that Mr. Biden is not straying from the Obama administration's position that each of these three groups should be unified as part of a unified government in Iraq, and that this should not be divided, Wolf.
As you know, Brian, the Kurdish region up north of Iraq already has proven to be extremely capable of handling its military, economic affairs on its own for all practical purposes right now, especially since it's taken over the oil-rich town of Kirkuk. It looks like an almost independent Kurdistan has already developed.
That's right. And of the three groups, Wolf, it is functioning the most as an independent state. It's got a well-trained, well-disciplined military force called the Peshmerga. That force has been able to hold parts of Mosul where the Iraqi army was not able to do that. ISIS militants have not clashed seriously yet with those Kurdish forces. And the Kurdish troops, as you mentioned, they've been able to capture the oil-rich city of Kirkuk, which is also in the north. They've been able to develop their own oil resources over the past decade anyway, even before all this started. Some experts believe it's only a matter of time before this Kurdish region becomes independent on its own as a nation.